Thank you so much for joining us today. As you can tell, we have a little different format today, but lots of incredible information that's going on in Israel right now, especially with you guys. We're glad to be with you today.
We just returned from Israel, and we had so many divine appointments. God opened so many doors. But we met with individuals who have very important information to get out about the war with Hamas. And people are asking so many questions right now, and that's why we're doing this program today.
Lieutenant Colonel Dr. Mordechai Kedar. This man, over 25 years in the intelligence business, he knows just about everything there is to know about what goes on behind the scenes with things with Iran. He is about to unload on you what really happened in October 7th, the motivation behind the attacks, and it's not like anything you've heard so far. You're going to want to check this out.
You guys are with him in Jerusalem. Let's go there now.
We're on our way to a very special interview with religious Zionist Dr. Mordechai Kedar.
He's a lieutenant colonel in the reserves of the IDF, a specialist in intelligence and in Arab affairs. Anything that has to do with the motivation behind why these countries, these Muslims, these groups are acting the way that they are, he knows why.
We have a ton of amazing questions to ask Dr. Kedar, especially related to the invasion of Hamas and the ongoing war. Join us.
The great thing about Israel is their tiny little elevators. We always see how many people we can fit. Oh look, there's a man right here under my bed. Look, he's hiding. Well, we arrived for our interview about an hour early, and Dr. Kedar was in the middle of a live news appearance on Israeli TV. So we decided to play the waiting game. Quietly. With his interview finally complete, Dr. Kedar welcomes us into his home.
Well, October 7th is something I would say rather complicated. Hamas were armed by Iran. Hamas were equipped by Iran. Hamas were trained by Iran, sponsored by Iran and Iran friend Qatar. And Hamas should have been a part of something totally different. I got the information April of 2023, like a year and a month ago. I have a good friend who is a refugee from Iraq, a Christian Arab from Iraq who lives in Europe. And he is in connection with anti-Iranian activists in Iraq. And once in a while, he sends me all kinds of information about the Iranian militias in Iraq, what they do, what they prepare, and I usually send it to the intelligence here, and they do with this whatever they do. I have no idea what. In the beginning of April of 2023, a year and a month ago, more or less, he sent me a whole story about an order which came from Iran to the 50 militias, pro-Iranian militias, which they have in Iraq only, ordering them to start getting prepared to a war against Israel, which will be carried out by launching missiles, drones, and by incursion on the ground from the Golan, from Syria, to get prepared. What they need, and to wait until the Iranian order to start the war. The same order was given to the 17 militias, Iranian militias in Syria, the same to Hezbollah in Lebanon, the Houthis in Yemen, and Hamas and the Islamic Jihad in Gaza as well. Wow. They were all supposed to start an all-out war against Israel in 1 minute, in 1 second, when they get the order from Iran. According to the Iranian diabolic plan, Israel would collapse within 2 to 5 days, because Israel would be under a barrage of missiles coming from all the directions, barrage of drones coming from all the directions, and incursion on the ground, as we saw in the south, also from the north, occupying the 5 towns in the north, which is next to the border, Kiryat Shmona, Rosh Pina, Ma'alot, Shlomi, and Nahariya, and all the kibbutzim and the moshavim in between, capturing thousands of people, killing thousands of people, because only in the north we had in this area like 80,000 people. So imagine how many victims would have been there. In Gaza, it was like 1 of 10 of this. And all Israel air bases, facilities of electricity, water supply, roads, communications, the facilities in the sea, of the gas facilities in the sea, everything will be bombarded by those missiles, and Israel will exhaust its Iron Dome within a day, the Arrow in another day, and Israel will remain exposed after 2 or 3 days. The Americans are still asleep in Virginia, and the Europeans are still where they are. Israel is being wiped off the map. This was the Iranian plan. Hamas should not have started a war by themselves.
They jumped the gun. They went before the plan.
Iran's plan was planned to be carried out only after Iran owns a nuclear weapon, in order to deter any retaliation, to deter Israel from retaliation. Hamas had different timetable, because along 2023 there were talks between Israel and Saudi Arabia about normalizing the relations between Israel and Saudi Arabia. Why is it so important? Unlike the Emirates, Bahrain, and Morocco, which are the countries of the Abraham Accords of 2020, Saudi Arabia is a leading country. They lead the remnants of the Arab world, like Algeria, Tunisia, and more important, the Islamic world. Maybe not including Iran, but definitely Indonesia, Malaysia, Pakistan, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, all these Central Asian republics, Mauritania in Africa, Niger, Chad, Mali, all these Islamic countries, which will be encouraged, of course, by the American administration to normalize relations with Israel after Saudi Arabia have done it. And from Hamas' point of view, the Palestinian cause will be dead. If most of the Islamic world is in such good relations with Israel, who in the world will care about the Palestinian issue? Killing 1,200 Israelis in one day, and butchering, raping, and all these things, all these atrocities, was way above the Israeli ability to tolerate and to absorb. And Israel went to an all-out war, unlike what they expected. And now they have to face the consequences of what they did. And Israel is determined to get rid of their military abilities and their government, and actually to get rid of Hamas from Gaza. We expected the world to be more sympathetic with this. But I must say that the Biden administration at the beginning were wholeheartedly with us. We still remember the don't, which Biden said to both to Hezbollah and to Iran, who, by the way, were surprised by the action of Hamas. But this is why, by the way, until this very day, they did not get to an all-out war against Israel, because it doesn't work according to their timetable.
Okay. They don't have their nuke.
What Hezbollah has with us is border clashes plus, maybe plus, but not more than border clashes.
Not the real thing, yeah.
They don't shoot on Tel Aviv, they don't shoot on Haifa, they don't, target strategic targets here in Israel. All they do, they shoot on the border and maybe beyond the border a little bit. Because they don't want now an all-out war, because Iran has not yet achieved nuclear weapon.
Wow. So with the recent retaliation, the 200 plus, almost 300 drones and missiles on April 14th that Iran fired into Israel, I saw that as a prime opportunity for Israel to finally respond and take out those nuclear installations, but they didn't.
Well, there was an American veto. Because the Americans said, look, what you, Israel, did earlier, 2 weeks earlier, you actually succeeded to get rid of the commander of the Quds force in Syria and Lebanon, Zahidi, which was a big blow to the Iranians. A little bit less than Soleimani.
Oh, really?
Because he was one level below Soleimani.
Yeah.
So since everybody understands the big hit which they got from the Americans in 2020, January 2020, when America got rid of Soleimani, Israel got rid of Soleimani's deputy, the one after Soleimani in the rank, and this was a good success. Now you succeeded also in the defense. In the offense against this man, you succeeded. In the defense, you succeeded to stop this barrage of missiles and drones and everything. So what do you want more? So don't...
Not to be annihilated.
Okay. No. From the American point of view, you hit them, they try to hit you back and they fade. So don't accelerate this clash, the exchange of clashes, because for the Americans, they do not want to have now issues with the Iranians. They want to tame the Iranians. They want to have the Iranians act like normal state. They still believe in it. The same mindset of the JCPOA of 2015. And in my humble view, I'm afraid that Barack Obama is still controlling many things. And he still believes that Iran could be convinced to behave like a normal state, although this is against the DNA of the Iranian Shia. So, but he doesn't get it. Neither he nor Biden, who was his deputy, or he was vice president in those days. So, this is actually what happened here. And look, I'm not in a situation to thank Hamas for what they did, but they actually destroyed the big diabolic satanic plan of the Iranians, because now Israel understands it. By the way, I published this in April when I got this information. I published it because I also gave it to the army, but this information doesn't concern only the army. It also connected to the electricity grid, to the water supply. Yeah. To the emergency services here in Israel, municipalities, actually everyone wants to know that there is a plan to get rid of us all. So it's not only the army. Secondly, this is not something which is out of history, because the independence war in 1948 was multi-front war. We had it from Egypt, Jordan, Syria, Lebanon as well, with forces which came from Iraq, from Saudi Arabia, from Libya. And the Six-Day War in 1967 was also 3 fronts, Egypt, Jordan, and Syria. The Yom Kippur War, 1973, was 2 fronts, Syria and Egypt. So the fact that here we have 5 fronts is not something which is totally out of context. Mm-hmm. So it's not a secret. Secondly, if people talk about this in Iraq, in Syria, in Lebanon, in Yemen, in Gaza, shouldn't we Israelis know about this? So I published the whole plan of the Iranians. It was published on April 9 of 2023. One day, I saw it in English. People translated it. Yeah. I saw it in French. I saw it in Arabic. Wow. And 5 days later, on April 14, Yahya Sinwar is giving a sermon or a speech in Gaza, and he recommends everybody to read Mordechai Kedar's article. Oh.
Just about nightly, I've been watching world news to see what's going on in Israel these days. There's one thing that we've heard in this last segment that we never hear from the news about Hamas jumping the gun. Wow, what in the world is that?
Game changer. That's a game changer information.
Yes. And it shows the grace of God, how he would use the enemy against themselves to stop their own plot in destroying his people. And that was really, when we went to Israel, we were filming a series called Rebuilding the Ruined Cities, which you'll see later in the year coming up. But it was all about how God has supernaturally intervened over the ages to protect Israel, his chosen people.
Wow. We were so grateful to be able to go on this trip. All the trips that we go on are only possible because of the donations that people generously give. When God moves on your heart to do something about Israel, to stand for them, some it's going to be prayer and some it's going to be financial, but everything that God's called you to do, we ask you to continue that. That enables us to go stand for Israel, to bring these stories, to bring these interviews, and to make a difference in these end times, because guys, it's only getting worse. You can look at what's happening around us and see that, and we want to continue all these years forward telling the story from God's place.
And that's why we're here. We hope to remain on the air till the Lord comes back himself. But until then, I want to hear more about this story. Let's go back to Israel in Jerusalem.
So what do you see is Iran's master plan is sabotaged by Hamas's greed. What do we need to look for next with Iran's plan and what they do to pivot from this? How should we be preparing and be aware?
Well, although the component of surprise doesn't exist anymore, because first of all, Israel took out like 80,000 of the Israelis who live next to the northern border, so they cannot capture them, or kill them. Okay? Secondly, half of the Israeli army is in the north, ready to face Hezbollah. So now it's a very bad time to invade Israel by Hezbollah. It's not a good time. And Israel is aware of it. And don't forget that for like almost 2 months, we had here in the sea a whole fleet headed by the Ford aircraft carrier, with a whole entourage of all fleet of ships with weapons, with ammunition, with bombs, with everything needed. And only this fleet could, as much as I assume that they could flatten Iran if they wanted, or maybe Lebanon as well.
Yeah.
So this was totally not according to the Iranian plan. Definitely was not planned by Iran. So actually what happened with Hamas actually destroyed the Iranian plan. I want to thank them, because when they burn kids and decapitate children and rape women and kill so many people in such a barbaric, satanic way, I'm the last man on earth to thank them. But definitely they destroyed the Iranian plan. Although they did it, the intention of the Iranians and all their proxies to destroy Israel didn't vanish, didn't go anywhere. They might postpone it for a while until Israel falls asleep on God, as it did on October 7th. And they will do it. It could be now, it could be in a year, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, who cares? There is a verse in the Quran which says, Inna Allah ma'a sabirin. Allah is with those who have patience. And they have a lot of patience. We Westerners, our clock is very short, you know. Yes. We want everything instant. Yes. Instant coffee, for example. Here in the Middle East, they don't know what instant coffee is. They have only real coffee, which they broil and wait until it bruises, and, you know, everything, because it's a whole ceremony. It's not like the instant culture as which we have. Yeah. Here, the timetable is totally different.
But now you've sounded the alarm. The Israeli government knows, the intelligence knows. What do you feel is going to be Israel's next step in dealing with the Iranian threat?
I have no idea, because first of all, Israel is not alone in this.
Yes.
Iran threatens not only Israel, the Iranian missiles can reach London and beyond. And Iran is actually a danger to everybody. They know how to launch missiles from submarines. So imagine like a submarine which shows up somewhere in the Atlantic
It reaches us,
and
the
reaches
American.
wherever they like, or New Australia or wherever. Okay, so they can do whatever they like. And don't forget that they think, that they believe that they are directed by Allah. That according to the Shia, the leaders of the Shia are, as they in Arabic, ma'sumin, infallible. Because they are connected directed to Allah. And therefore, if they decide to develop nuclear weapons and maybe to use them as well, this is a divine decision. It's not their decision. And this is how they think. Nuclear weapons in the hands of these people is very dangerous, because at any given moment they can decide that Allah gives them the order to use it. Who are the swine eaters and the wine drinkers to tell them what to do and what not to do? They look at all the others from high and above. The Jews are defiled, while Christians as well, and they drink and they eat whatever they eat, so who cares about them? Who gave them the permission to talk to us? Muslims, believers. This is how they look at it. This is why negotiations with them is futile. And the only thing which works with the Iranians is credible threat. A threat which they believe that you will do to them what you threaten them. In 2003, the invasion against Saddam Hussein, the invasion of Iraq, by the Americans and the Europeans and many others. The Americans said that they will be finished by June, that the 3 months will be enough in order to rebuild Iraq as a democracy. I already told them that this is nonsense. It cannot be. It may be, could be 30 years, but not 3 months. But they thought, and they were talking about continuing the war in June, maybe on Iraq, on Syria, on both. This was the discussions. I said I took part in these discussions, so I know. So Iran halted its nuclear weapon program immediately because they were afraid that they will be targeted with the next target of Iran, of the United States after Iraq. But they started the insurgency in Iraq. They helped it, they supported it, they trained the people, and they armed them, and they equipped them, and they actually sponsored this. And America had all the evidence needed in order to blame Iran for the participation in the insurgency. It took 3 years. America did nothing against Iran, although the American intelligence had all the information about Iran participation in the insurgency, and they did nothing. So they understood that America more or less becoming a paper tiger. Mm-hmm. So they resumed their nuclear program in 2006 after holding it for 3 years. So this is what shows you that when they are afraid that they will stand out, the world will do something against them, they are deterred. What do I say? In order for the world to get rid of the Iranian nuclear weapons, the world leadership, headed by the American president, should have sent them a letter saying this: Dear Iranians, or Khamenei, your time is over and your game is over. We don't believe in one word which you say. You have 1 week exactly to get rid of all the facilities and everything from the uranium and the enriched uranium, whatever you have, everything which you have about this nuclear program. You have 1 week exactly to ship it to us on ships. If you fail to do it within 1 week, we are going to flatten you with the earth. And we are around you, and we are already warming the engines. Don't call us, we will not call you. And read our lips, we mean business. We say what we mean, and we mean what we say. You're finished in 1 week. Now, the more credible this threat is, the less is the chance that you have to use it.
That just blew my mind. This has been so enlightening. We've run out of time, but I appreciate this wisdom that you have given us, and the stories and the insight and the intelligence. I believe it's going to change a lot of people's perspectives in America. Thank you so much, sir.
Pleasure to be here.
The scriptures tell us, do not be afraid. But yet there's a little something inside of me when Dr. Kedar was saying that Iran is not done.
Wow.
That their timetable is different from American timetable. I love the analogy where he said about, we think instant coffee, Middle East, you stir it till it's ready. You take the timing, and the timing for Iran is not yet.
Yes, and Satan is patient sometimes. He waits till the moment of attack. And Iran is not a foe that's going to disappear anytime soon. Ezekiel 38 and 39 explains that they are part of a major coalition of enemy forces that come against Israel. And America is on their hit list as well. We're number 2. After they settle the Saturday people, they're going to settle the Sunday people. So really, as a nation, as a people, politically, spiritually, we need to stand against what Iran has in store for the Jewish people, not just for ourselves, for what God believes is his chosen people. This is a part of prophecy, guys. I remember in Psalms 2, verses 1 through 2, it warns us that why do the nations rage and the people plot a vain thing? The kings of the earth set themselves and the rulers take counsel together against the Lord and against his anointed one.
Sitting across from Dr. Mordechai was such an honor. When I was listening to this information, I realized that I was privy to information that only a handful of people were getting to hear. And I had that ability to sit there and to listen and to record this because of everybody at home that supports this ministry. For 45 years, y'all have been faithful to support and to listen to the Holy Spirit and what part he wanted you to play in the powerful mission of this ministry, which is to go to Israel, to tell the story from the land, to support God's people. Right now in time is a pinnacle moment against God's people. Anti-Semitism is at a fever pitch all around the world, especially in America right now. And even in the campuses of our children, they're speaking up against God's people. And it's time for us to stand for them. People have asked me for years, how can I help? You pray and you ask God what he wants you to do. For some, it'll be to donate. For some, it'll be to go to the country. And for some, it will be prayer. But right now, you need to ask what your job is, what your part is in supporting Israel and God's future for his people and his nation.
Amen. Caleb, you said Iran's going to be around for a while. I believe that this program is going to be around for the same amount of time, if not longer. That's our goal. That's our prayer.
Yep.
But unfortunately, for this program, we're out of time.
That's right. And as you go, please, Sha'alu Shalom Yerushalayim.
Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Our Jewish Roots is a presentation of Zola Levitt Ministries. As a 100% viewer-funded ministry, your gifts allow us to bring you our weekly television series, social media outlets, website, and other ministry endeavors. Please remember we depend on tax-deductible donations from viewers like you.